Niwa here. Should be exciting.
Oh, he's taken the first point. Ma Long, for me, playing as good as I've ever seen him play, but Koki Niwa has the scalp in his pocket, so to speak. He has beaten him before, so that will give him a little bit of confidence.
A nice recovery here, chasing down that ball off the top of the net to the opposite corner. I think that's one thing that's so important when you're playing Ma Long is belief. You have to believe it's possible. Chop block sits up way too high. If he was closer to the table, he might have ducked. He did it against pitch. I don't know, I think, he still understands, Koki Niwa clearly understands, despite his superhero status, that he's playing for the team and for the country, and he's fighting to win.
The fact he's beaten him once before might make Ma Long even more determined, I'm not sure. So difficult to read Koki Niwa psychologically, isn't it? He's just a cool customer all the time.
Yeah, he's on a different level.
3-2.
I think that's part of his mystery, his mystique. I mean, I don't think he wants people to know too much about what he's thinking. He's a private guy in general, very shy and very creative, a bit of an artist on the table.
3-all.
What you mentioned about having been beaten before, I think that was also the case. We saw Ding Ning fighting, Zhu Yuling fighting. Both had been beaten by their opponents. So Mima Ito getting the best of Ding Ning once before, and I think Ding Ning thought never again. Ma Long probably has the same fight and drive out here.
Four, 3.
Again, we were talking about the Japanese being very strong when they're young, and Koki Niwa was part of the Japanese under-18 squad when he was 11 years of age. So he's still only young, relatively young, but he's been playing a long time at a high level.
3-5.
For me, he became internationally quite well known around 14, which is interesting because Harimoto's had about 2 years of the celebrity that Koki Niwa got at 14. Actually, much more than that, because Koki Niwa was known by table tennis fans who were true enthusiasts. But if you're watching table tennis at all, even from time to time, it's tough not to know who Harimoto is right now. Marvelous Long, there he is. Ma Long, horse dragon, as his name translates.
I think when you look at Niwa's results, he's knocking on the door to being a real top world-class player. Just not quite there. I just had a glance at his performances in 2017, and he's a quarter-finalist. He made the quarter-final of the World Championships, the Men's World Cup, Qatar, Japan, China, Austria, lost in the quarter-final of all those events. Suggests he's in the top 8, but he's not quite breaking into the top 5.
That's a very interesting analysis. I think it's a rare opportunity to look at how far into the tournament a player is. Sometimes the world rankings are the simpler way to go, but that's a very valid point. How do you perform under pressure? If you're playing a lot on the World Tour and you're not breaking a certain barrier.
5-7.
Now, a little fun fact for those of you at home. There's the couple. The man, they have the best smiles. The woman holding the sign and her husband with the 2 flags. They could be just friends, really. Look at them, though. How can you not be happy? I was going to say Ma Long's currently world number 7. Koki Niwa currently world number 6. So, yeah, the new world ranking system will get the best players playing more tournaments. I think that's one of the main goals.
5-8.
It'll also inspire players from continents that are a little bit less, top of the world in terms of table tennis outside of Europe and Asia. They'll benefit from winning continental events. You'll see players from North America, South America, Oceania, Africa, climbing in the world rankings.
Great long fast serve down the line from Koki Niwa. High toss. Interesting return. Ma Long looking to push it short, which is very difficult to do off a long fast serve.
8-7.
Ma Long will be disappointed there. He got very quickly round. A wry smile appeared on his face. You don't see that too often.
The exhale there of Koki Niwa. I was going to say Ma Long looked more stressed than Koki Niwa for a moment, but they had pretty similar facial expressions. Koki Niwa engaging the eye contact there, sizing up the opponent once again.
7-9.
Niwa there coming across the table. We've been talking about that technique, returning with the backhand from the forehand side of the table. Three game points.
One saved. As we come into the third towel break, that slow motion highlight of the point before. It's funny, we have to remember that slow motion. Ball moving slowly, Ma Long not catching it, but really actually quite fast. Niwa's trying to stay close to the table. We've seen it with his spin shots. I think he knows that's where he's going to be far more threatening.
10-8, please play.
2 game points left for Ma Long with the serves. Oh, gets the forehand flip on, but the inside-out forehand goes long. Ma Long in control, dictating once again, back on the scene and in fashion. So 11-8. Captain Long takes game number 1 for Koki Niwa. Creativity can be kindly rewarded out here for him. Same with versatility in his pace, his placement, just keeping the opponent guessing. I think between the two of them, between the two of these players, Koki Niwa is the less predictable player and the more creative player. Ma Long has pulled off some incredibly creative shots. He's the most complete player. But let's see how Koki Niwa comes back. Don, I'll talk through this with you. The coaches right now, I'm curious to hear your thoughts about what's going to change.
I don't think anything's going to change from Ma Long. I think he made a few errors there. Forehand topspin he missed towards the end of that game. I think he just plays really positive. He's strong on both wings. He plays very good short play. What can you tell somebody? Just keep it going.
So more so on the Koki Niwa side, right?
Yeah, that's
Second
more
game.
of the challenge. That's more of the challenge. But again, I don't think Koki Niwa did a lot wrong there. He looked to be positive. He started strong.
This is nice soft touch here. Keeps it right at the back of the table. Some discomfort for Ma Long on that opening attack. That's a tough one. That's the danger of coming around the forehand side of the table for the backhand, is you leave a gaping hole on the backhand side, and a quick player. Ma Long, there's that textbook backhand, so clean right down the line. Well placed, right into the middle.
I mean, Ma Long was #1 in the world back in 2010, I think. And he's not been far off #1 throughout the last 7 years. He's such a seasoned campaigner. And I'm not sure what his run of victories has been at the World Championships. He's defended his title. He won in Dusseldorf. He won the time before, Olympic champion. Just funny, there was a record.
Yeah, you know, people, there's always the question, who is the greatest of all time? And Zhang Jiko for a few years was looking to be a good candidate for that title. Ma Long has turned things around a bit. Niwa with the sky lobs coming down. Oh, the forehand comes into play, but the backhand, not 2 in a row. Koki Niwa not afraid to try. A spectacular point for the crowd. And there the rackets twiddled, the red rubber out for Ma Long. Normally the tacky black rubber on the forehand side. But with those high balls, he doesn't need as much spin. He needs a rubber that's going to spring the ball out. More speed than spin. Beautiful angle from Niwa, playing risky and wide.
Again, going back to the tactics of Niwa, that's what he's going to do, play high-risk table tennis. What have you got to lose when you're up against somebody like Ma Long? Go for your shots. And as you say, that was a great forehand topspin.
Yeah, if you're watching the World Tour year-round, you've probably heard me say this before, but If you take two players and one's the underdog, if they both play their typical game, the underdog will lose. On average, you will lose. So you have to take risks and hope that some of the shots go in.
5-2.
High-risk shots, if you make a higher percentage than usual, pressure could settle in, who knows?
And look at this.
Nice counter right there off the bounce. Koki Niwa's timing quite early. I mean, we've got the first one big, and Ma Long rips it back. Koki Niwa's already recovered in there. Opening, one more time, short stroke. Arm behind the head, Ma Lin style there for a moment.
But again, Niwa staying close to the table. Of course, when you're close to the table, you topspin, your opponent's got less time to react. Point touched.
Edge of the racket there, a little break for Koki Niwa, but still, you have to imagine it went where he was hoping to. Just can throw off the opponent. Very strong start right now for Koki Niwa, but as big as this lead is, 5 points, still not a safe lead against Ma Long. Please come down. Two drop shots. What? Oh, finally! Wow! Who even dares do this with Ma Long? I can't remember the last time I've seen Ma Long have to do one drop shot in a point, let alone three. And Koki Niwa almost hits the ceiling in here. So many balls come down.
The drop shot was quite strange. He lets the ball come to the top of the bounce for his drop shot.
I think he was hoping not to give it away because he knows how low the percentages are when you try to take it right off the bounce. It's necessary. I think he was hoping that Koki Niwa was far enough away that he'd make the next shot from near the ground, but he'd be close to the table, and then Ma Long could smash for a winner. But Koki Niwa kept lobbing it back on, even from close. So second towel break of the game, a 6-point lead for Koki Niwa. It is a best of 5, so it's more likely to produce an upset than a best of 7 match, Don.
Big difference. Easier to win 3 games than 4 games when you're playing against Ma Long, that's for sure. But Niwa, he's completely dominating this second game, and that touched, I think.
Back edge of the table, 7 game points.
It did, and there we see, yeah, 7 game points, and he deserves 7 game points. He's not put a foot wrong.
And softly, confidently, Koki Niwa holds Ma Long to 3 points. I don't know how many times I've uttered these two phrases together, but who does that? Koki Niwa does that. 11-3 over Ma Long. It doesn't mean the match is determined, but in terms of pressure, this gives Ma Long and Lu Guozheng quite a bit to think about in the corner, Don.
Well, the fact he's beaten him before, and he's just beaten him 11-3, must be preying on Ma Long's mind. He knows the guy's beaten him, and he knows he's just probably, I can't think of Ma Long losing a game 11-3, can you? You probably can.
It doesn't, it was almost like seeing him on the bronze medal podium at the Men's World Cup. It just doesn't, it seems like there must be a glitch in life. Like something, this isn't possible, this doesn't happen. 11-3 to Ma Long, no, I mean, I'm sure I'm not sure it's happened. Maybe in Chinese Super League, maybe on an off day.
But I think there, if you, Niwa, 2 things. He stayed close to the table. He didn't get forced away from the table. He gambled. And he went for his shots. Every opportunity he got, he looked to be aggressive.
Just a little fun thing for the fans out there. If you're watching this live right now, you're hearing this, please find me a time that Ma Long has been beaten 11-3. Anytime anyone, please send it to me. I would love to see when that happened, and I would love to know that information. Shot block well handled here. Ma Long with serious pressure, reads the spin well. Not easy to do. That chop block has beaten so many people in this tournament alone.
Meanwhile, their tactics were good. Service wasn't great. It wasn't quite fast enough. He went for the long serve. Bounced a little bit too high, but he took that high-risk forehand topspin off the bounce. Missed, but the tactics were definitely spot on.
That angle once again, a bit of side spin. Now here's something that, when you talk about advantages and disadvantages of different physiques out here, a shorter player has a shorter stroke in general. And with that lower center of gravity, to come around the inside of the ball is less awkward for the body.
Net.
There's actually a player who's about 5'3", a little shorter than Koki Niwa, who when I lob to, hits heavy side spin at me, and it's so difficult to stay in the rally.
Niwa there, excellent touch at the beginning of the rally. And then he took Ma Long on close to the table. He's not backing away. There you can see him, he's holding his ground.
Snake, oh, it's gonna go wide. He snaked it from under the table, the side spin, and Ma Long wasn't fooled. He adjusted well. I mean, how many times in this match are we gonna see Koki? If there was a snake, did you see him whip the racket up the opposite way right after putting a little side spin? Oh, that's the most expression I've seen from Koki Niwa in quite some time when he's on the field of play.
Let. 2-3.
On the bench, we saw some expressions like that from him yesterday as Japan barely snuck through the victory against Korea. Oh, Koki Niwa. The punch, and then going down to below the table with the counter on the short side. Please let me see this again. One backhand opening, squatting backhand, falling out of frame. It's Koki Niwa, full commitment. Gotta love that, like a ninja, just creeping down below the table there on that last ball.
A
little bit more spin on the top spin, not quite as much speed. Good tactics from Ma Long.
This high-risk game, though, that we're seeing from Koki Niwa, I mean, his percentages, this is one of the things that makes him world number 6, despite not getting through the quarterfinals so much in 2017. He's beaten some of the most unbeaten players in table tennis. And he's consistently dangerous. I mean, Dima had the best year last year from a record standpoint. There's our favorite couple again in the fans, Ma Long fan club. I like that the Ma Long fan club lets their faces show. I feel like in Chinese fan culture, most of the fans cover their face with the signs. They're very proud about it, very comfortable.
4-5.
Again, Koki Niwa just looking to take that backhand, get in with the backhand topspin. Just have a little look. Hits his finger, I think, and flew off the end. But again, the tactics spot on. Be aggressive, take a few chances. If you block those and just keep the ball on the table, then I'm afraid there's only one winner. Oh my goodness. That forehand topspin down black, again holding his ground. Had he have backed off the table, that shot would have been impossible. Here he goes.
Sort of was a little bit. And look at this. A step and a half behind, the arm behind the head once again. Agility. I was just sitting there with my mouth open. I couldn't believe that came down on the table, Don. Tied up 5 points each. Dictator with the serve.
6-5.
He's fired up, he's cholaying. Got 2 for singles. Koki Niwa dodging the ball, a little bit of a
Chinese selection process, and they do. Some countries play the top players and keep them going, and then all of a sudden there's a gap because the younger players haven't had a chance to come through. China, incredible how they've just kept the machine working, and we get endless players coming through. And I think sometimes they're very brave in not playing players when they're 28, 29, 30. So will Marlon be in the lineup? I'm enjoying your chat at the bar here. What will be China's team?
Yeah, it's
Fan Shendong's down there. He's on my list now.
yeah, it's tough to imagine he won't be playing the Olympic Games in the singles event. Oh man, almost out of reach. This is where Kasumi Ishikawa ended up lying on the table at the Women's World Cup in Sendai. Shot block, lob, racket twiddle. Look how much bounce Ma Long. Really agile to get back around for that.
Have to be careful there. If he moves the table, of course, you lose the points. And if he'd have kicked a little bit more across the table, he might have had to dive on the table.
These tables look pretty sturdy. I think a dive could do it. Ooh, big point here, stepping into the lead. Yeah, that's a real question for me too, Don. I mean, Ma Long, no single man has won the Olympic singles gold medal twice. Had Zhang Jiko won game 1 against Ma Long, I wonder what the motivation and the body language on the court would have been for the next few games. But with Zhang Jiko, game 1 was a tight deuce game, and then the next 3, Ma Long just tore him to shreds. But Zhang Jiko would have been the first to do it. He would have been a double Grand Slam winner, which would have been the first in history for men. And I think many would have hailed him as the greatest of all time. Oh, look who it is. Speaking of which, Ding Ning has had a tiring tournament here. She can rest a bit now. Nice little spot there in the crowd.
3-4.
But Ma Long has the chance to do the same if he can keep up his form. He's got a little over 2 years left to be the best in the world under pressure, and he does have the experience. 2015, he found his confidence.
5-3.
But we can't count out Lin Gaoyuan. He's been getting a lot of opportunities lately as we come into the timeout. Yeah, I'm curious to see who will rise for the Chinese men.
So timeout called. Each player has the opportunity for 1 timeout during the match. Japanese coach possibly sensing this match drifting away. 2-point lead to Ma Long.
Now, just a reminder for context's sake, right now in the overall team matchup, China has 2 victories, and all they need is 1 more. Ma Long 1 game away. If he wins this here, it's over. China is the champion. But it was Japan yesterday against Korea, who was up 2-0. And in the 3rd match, the second singles match, the surprise victory came. And then same in the 4th. And in game number 5, it was looking really grim for Japan. 5th match, 5th game, Jin Ueda down 6-10 against Jung Song-un, a timeout at 10-7. And it never stopped. 16-14, Jin Ueda managed to take the match to get the Japanese men here to the final today. Koki Niwa has to start this revolution, the change out here for the men of Japan. He's already taken 1 game off of Ma Long. It's going to take 2 more.
6-3.
Serve comes off the table just a little bit, but not a comfortable opening shot. If Koki Niwa doesn't make it, you have to imagine it's very well placed from Ma Long, and he is a man of precision.
Again, the return just a fraction too high. Didn't quite read the amount of backspin. He thought there was a lot more on the ball. Thought he had to lift it. He did, but there was no backspin to lift. So the ball pops up. And I think There's going to be no recovery here, Adam. The writing is on the wall.
Well, just something fun to remind competitors about how spin, the most spin isn't necessarily important. Ma Long, not a flashy serve. Oh, we were waiting for this to happen. Koki Niwa's played that angle so many times, and Ma Long anticipates. He's learned from the past, waits till the last moment, and covers. A beautiful finish to this point for Ma Long.
The key to the service is not the spin, as you say, Adam, it's deception.
Yes. A lot of factors, but if it's tough for the receiver to read, good third ball opportunity is much more likely for the server. Exhibition points? I don't know. I mean, it's a team event. It seems unlikely. Can't imagine. You know, we've seen comebacks like this in China. Wang Jianjun versus Ma Lin 2003. And there it is, Ma Long, 11-3, the same way Koki Niwa.
We predicted a 3-0.